A shipping container leaseback scam. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heiser here and welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at this article from Money. Now, I was quite interested in shipping containers. I've been reading about it, just the shortage of containers around the world, and looking at different ways you could invest in this market. Some people are saying I'm probably a bit too late to the boat to invest in certain logistics companies, but they're still there that pay a dividend. But one thing to consider is shipping containers. Now, a lot of people have shared how they've bought them. They're using them as glorified sheds or even accommodations. You've got to be careful, though, because you hear the stories of people turning shipping containers into houses with insufficient ventilation and then getting carbon monoxide poisoning. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a shipping container scam and some of the warning signs. So, is the humble shipping container a seaworthy investment, or could it go the way of the Titanic? Websites touting buy a shipping container have generated considerable interest among investors despite a number of authorities, including Canada's financial market regulator and the West Australian government, issuing warnings about some of these schemes. And of course, this is dated from 2017, but I'm interested, so that's why I thought we'd go through it. Even without the official cautions, the deals offered on shipping containers is a textbook example of how some basic online research should set the alarm bells ringing. How it works. One of the most prominent providers of shipping container investments is the Hong Kong registered company Pacific Tycoon. Under its sale and leaseback arrangement, an investor pays Pacific Tycoon $4,100 to buy a container, which is then leased back to the company and sublet to the shipping industry. Australian investors can expect a fixed leased option which promises annual returns of 12% plus insurance cover for loss or damaged contents. After 5 years, investors can receive their initial purchase price back. On the face of it, the deal ticks a lot of boxes. The problem is that the promise of high returns coupled with low risk defies one of the fundamental rules of investing, the risk-reward trade-off, which sees high returns going hand in hand with increased risk. And we've seen, just looking at some of the other articles the other day about, well, the other few days about shipping containers, how much time they spend empty. And that's a big issue. More worryingly, the West Australian government on its ScamNet website names Pacific Tycoon as one example of an alleged sea container leasing Ponzi scheme. So the warning signs. In a Ponzi scheme, a dodgy operator pays a return to investors out of money chipped in by new investors rather than from legitimate profits. Unless more investors continually come on board, it becomes harder for the operator to keep up regular payments, and the first time the hapless investor may recognize they've been scammed is when the payments fail to materialize. Ponzi schemes are illegal in Australia, but some container schemes are not based in Australia. This alone should raise a red flag. If anything goes wrong, for example, if the scheme turns out to be a web-based fraud by overseas criminals, authorities in Australia may not be able to track down either the masterminds or your money. Put simply, investors are on their own. When Money tried to contact the Sydney phone number listed on the Pacific Tycoon website, there is no street address. All we got was a recorded message. So does the deal stack up? An important point to note is that Pacific Tycoon is selling containers, which are a physical asset rather than a financial product, so it is not required to provide a product disclosure document under Australian law. This being the case, investors need to do plenty of homework before handing over any cash, and some basic online searches reveals why it's worth being highly skeptical about what's on offer. Check the numbers. To begin with, those 12% annual returns should raise eyebrows. Yeah, exactly. I mean, shipping containers, you can get them cheaper than $4,000, everyone. There's not much to them. The Pacific Tycoon website justifies the high return, stating demand for containers has historically outweighed the supply. And there is massive demand and restricted supply. That's what they're saying in 2017. Well, now it's actually happening. However, the shipping container industry is highly cyclical and has been plagued by excess capacity since the GFC. According to one industry report, more than 1.5 million TEUs, the industry term for the capacity of a 20-foot container, is sitting idle. The collapse of South Korea's Hinjang Shipping the world's 7th largest container carrier in September 2016, speaks volumes about the state of the market, and it's entirely at odds with the optimistic view promoted by Pacific Tycoon and its depreciating assets. But wait, there's more. Pacific Tycoon's website claims that much like the rent and earn model on a property investment, your capital is preserved in the physical value of your container. Comparing a shipping container to a bricks and mortar property is drawing a very long bow indeed. Well, yeah, what can you get for a contaminated container? Scrap. And, well, I went to my local scrappy yesterday, and I got $240 a ton for my metal, my steel. So there you go. You can't complain. Property has a habit of rising in value over time. Shipping containers lead a tough life both at sea and on land. They get pretty bashed around, and according to International Container Insurance, a new shipping container has a life expectancy of 20 years. Though with no maintenance and frequent use needed to earn strong returns, this lifespan could drop by as much as 14 years. Closer to home, the ATO sets a prime cost depreciation rate of 15% for shipping containers. So after 5 years, your container will have lost 75% of its value on paper at least. It raises the question of how Pacific Tycoon can afford to return an investor's upfront capital after 5 years when the container is likely to have deteriorated and fallen in value. So consider reliable alternatives. Another fact to consider is that neither Pacific Tycoon nor any other shipping container investment firm is listed as a member of the Institute for International Container Lessors. This seems odd, given that Pacific Tycoon claims to be a major player in the container rental and investment industry. The bottom line is that there appears to be plenty of questionable aspects to shipping container investment schemes. If you really have a hankering to add shipping containers to your portfolio, consider buying shares in a reputable Australian company such as Toll Holdings, which operates port and maritime services. It could save you from a sea of worry if a shipping container investment scheme turns out to be a scam. So 5 things to ask before investing. Be sure to ask these questions before handing over any money to invest in shipping containers. 1. Is the business registered with the investment watchdog ASIC? Now, okay, sure, that's a good point. But the Cloud Token Wallet scam that I identified and did a video about, and then they engaged Australian lawyers to threaten me, was ASIC registered. They'd gotten an idiot down in Tasmania to register the business, and they used that to give themselves legitimacy. So that is not 100%, well, it's not fail-safe. How long has the company been around? Have you spoken to a financial advisor or another independent expert about the proposal? That's probably really good. Is the investment provider able to give you contact details of real clients who have made money using the method? 5. Can you afford to lose the money invested in the scheme? And this is from the West Australian Department of Commerce. So there we have it, everyone. A look in the shipping container, or some concerns about the shipping container leasing sector, everyone. Too good to be true. And this is from a few years ago. So keep an eye out now with the shortage in containers and the surge in freight costs around the world. We may start seeing more and more of these scams. What do you reckon? Anyway, guys, thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Aussie Broadband. You can buy merch from Heiser Says, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.